Hi everybody, my name is Katie. I am the Notary Relations Director for BlueNotary, and I also own my own business as a remote online notary. So today what I wanted to go over is a very, very good potential source of income for a notary. I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention and just go over what that would look like for the notary. So that is partnering with a dealership that deals with windshields. So this is specific for Florida, but I would encourage you to do your own research as far as the different states that also do this. So in the state of Florida, insurance usually will cover a windshield replacement for free each year. So one each year. So if there's a chip, if there's a crack, if there's something along those lines, the insurance will cover it. So they obviously have to pay the dealership. So a pretty big business is that the dealerships will inspect the windshield, and if there's a chip, they will let the owners know and then let them know that they will do it essentially for free. They just need to sign a form saying that the dealership can file a claim on behalf of the owners. So that is something that usually needs to be notarized. It's called a limited power of attorney, and it is usually pretty specific as far as what they're able to do. Usually it says file a claim for insurance for the windshield, and then that way the dealership gets paid. So it's a little bit of an easy way for the dealership to create some more revenue. That is a fairly common practice within dealerships. So the part that you come in as the remote online notary is you would approach the dealership and say, hey, I know that sometimes your notary is not available. I know that sometimes there is liability involved with notarizing different documents, and sometimes it's not that streamlined. Sometimes the notary has to go out to lunch. Wouldn't it be nicer if you had, let's say, a laptop, let's say an iPad, so that way the signers could remotely notarize these things with me as the notary, so that way it decreases the time that it would take to get these things notarized. It incentivizes the owners of the cars to just basically go through the process and then be on with their day. Definitely pitch it to them like that. They're usually always trying to create more revenue. If it's an easier process, they wouldn't even necessarily need a notary in-house anymore. And let's say they notice that there's a crack in the window or something along those lines, and the owner has already left. They're out doing something, they don't want to deal with it. They can send the link for you to the owner to be able to get that notarized within about 10 minutes and send it back to the dealership without making the customer come in to be able to sign that to get the windshield replaced. There's so many use cases for why you are a resource to these dealerships, but that is just one of them. I wanted to get into a little bit of the numbers because I know that people are like, okay, that's great, but here's the potential numbers. Let's just pick a number. You always have to follow your state guidelines. You know, in the state of Florida, it's $25 for notarization, but if you're providing a service, it is a little bit of a gray area, and I can't really get into it too much, but let's say there is a notary that charges $50 for the service of doing that. If you do $50 times 6, that's $300 a day, and then that would be $1,500 a week. So that is times 52 is $78,000 that could potentially be in your pocket. I don't think it's above the unrealistic to say that there could be 6 notarizations a day from a dealership for windshields if there is a high volume. And the other thing that I wanted to drive home is that you do not have to partner with only one dealership. So let's say you do one dealership, you do really, really well with that dealership could let another dealership know, usually they're franchised, that you did a good job, they're making revenue, their turnover rate is higher, their customer satisfaction is higher because they didn't have to wait for a notary to come back for lunch. They didn't have to go out to UPS to try and get that notarized. They refer you to their sister branch. And it does not matter where their sister branch is because you can notarize for them for anywhere. So if you get a couple different dealerships and you are steady with your work, that can be a really, really good source of income. So I wanted to come on here to hammer it home that I think diversifying your income and not only focusing on one thing is going to be super, super beneficial to you in your business. So if you only focus on loan signings, that's great. But if the mortgage industry or something along those lines changes, I want you to be able to pivot so that way you can still pay your bills. That's what pretty much everyone wants to do. So I wanted to open your eyes to the different possibilities that are out there, because right now there's definitely a need for the dealerships to be able to use us. They just don't know it yet. So your job is to educate them and then also to streamline the whole entire process so that it is the easiest. It is easier to use you than it is to use anyone else. So you want to be the first point of contact. So try and get in front of those dealerships, whether it be talking to the salespeople, talking to the service techs, talking to the shop manager, the shop foreman, all of those people. I would usually say, if you don't know how to initially approach them, just go to whoever it is that is the first person, say, I want to be able to do this. Who's the best person for me to talk to? And usually they'll say, oh, not me. I would talk to such and such. Great. Can you give me that email? So I think that that is the way that you should start thinking about pretty much hopefully everything. That is what I do when I go about my day, is finding different streams of revenue and then also sharing it with you guys, because there is definitely enough to go around. There's not that many remote online notaries that are marketing towards car dealerships. And it's not just car dealerships. It could be traders. It could be collision shops. Collision shops would be perfect because they usually need replaced windshields as well. And it's not just that. It could be title transfers, things like that. But just start thinking about where there are needs and then where you can basically plug yourself in and be that resource. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it. Feel free to subscribe if this was helpful, which hopefully it was, because I think $78,000 isn't really that much to sneeze at. Yeah, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it there. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me, and stay tuned for more.